Thank you, Rick, and thank you for having me. I'm Holly, as Rick said. I'm the head of data and software publishing at F1000Research. And today I want to talk a bit about my experience implementing registered reports alongside an open post-publication peer review model. For those of you who aren't quite familiar with F1000Research, it is a publishing platform where researchers can openly publish a wide range of research outputs without editorial bias. All articles published on F1000Research benefit from transparent peer review and mandatory data sharing. F1000Research was launched back in 2013, so fairly young as far as journals go. And as some of you might have heard, we were recently acquired by Taylor & Francis. And so the initial idea behind F1000Research was to really disrupt the traditional publishing model and help evolve scholarly communication to a format that better serves science and researchers, including increasing the speed of dissemination, allowing for dynamic publishing or article versioning, introducing transparency into that peer review process, and supporting reproducibility through detailed reporting and a mandatory fair data policy. And so to this end, when articles are submitted to F1000Research, they undergo quick pre-publication checks. We do not have editors, which are making judgments based on novelty or impact, but instead we're using a fairly objective checklist, looking at things, for instance, such as has ethical approval been provided where required. Once these pre-publication checks are satisfactorily complete, the article is then immediately published. And it's this publication that actually triggers the peer review process. Peer review at F1000Research is invited and open. Peer review reports are published alongside the article, and we encourage authors to revise their article in response to any criticisms flagged by the reviewers. And these revised articles are posted alongside the original article with their peer review reports. So as a reader and reviewer, you have access to the whole history of an article. And delving a bit deeper into our open and fair data policy, we require that the data underlying the results be deposited in a trusted repository with a permanent identifier in an open format under a CC0 license where it is safe to do so, of course. All articles must include a data availability statement, an example of which is shown here on the right, even where there is no data, and articles and data are linked using data citations. And it's this use of consistent reporting on data within the article that allows us to ask peer reviewers to confirm that all the underlying data has been provided. And with that, I'd like to spend the remainder of this few minutes talking about registered reports. As we're all aware, there's a range of problems that threaten the integrity of the scientific method and by extension, the integrity of the scientific record. Perverse incentives driven by that publish or perish culture that we know too well have resulted in a lack of replication studies, insufficient statistical power, high prevalence of cherry picking, post hoc hypothesizing, lack of data sharing, and all of this has really been further compounded by an editorial culture marked by publication bias. And so registered reports were first developed to help address these problems. And as such, they really represent a major departure from what we view as traditional academic publishing. The aim of registered reports is to enhance the reproducibility and transparency of science by reviewing the study protocol before the experiment is conducted. And so where the protocol is found to be scientifically sound, journals then commit in advance to publishing the results. And the unique selling point here of registered reports is really that they eliminate the need for scientists to chase or strive for those publishable results. And so they're shifting the focus away from the appeal of the results onto what really matters, and that's the rigor of the method itself. And so this philosophy that, the intrinsic value of science is in the rigor of the method rather than the appeal of the results is an ethos already enshrined by the F1000Research publishing model. And so I'm sure it will come as no surprise to most of you that integrating registered reports with our open post-publication peer review model and open data policy was really a no-brainer for us. It was a marrying of transparencies. And so to talk a bit about how registered reports work on F1000Research, the cornerstone of the registered report format on F1R is that the study protocol will be published and peer reviewed prior to data collection, and we call this stage one. And it's at this stage we ask reviewers to assess whether the protocol is scientifically sound, as well as answer a set of questions tailored specifically to this format. As with any paper at F1000Research, authors are encouraged to revise the paper, as I mentioned earlier, to address any concerns raised by the referees. And following study completion, so after the authors have published their study protocol, had it peer reviewed, and went and collected their data, the full research article can then be published on F1000Research. And this article is linked to the stage 1 study protocol, and it's reviewed to ensure that the registered protocol has been adhered to and that the conclusions are justified given that underlying data. And so the benefit of this format for researchers is really that it allows them to have expert reviewers provide constructive feedback on their proposed research methods very early on. And it gives them the opportunity to then address any methodological issues that are flagged before data collection, thereby improving their experimental design, all whilst getting earlier credit for their work. Well, I think we can agree that registered reports are not a cure-all for scientific publishing. There is a lot of other problems. They do offer a remedy to those issues they really set out to address, and they go a long way in making sexy results a dead currency. And so with that, I'd like to delve into a bit of a case study of a registered report written by Diane Newberry and colleagues on Wellcome Open Research. So Wellcome Open Research represents Wellcome's commitment to open science, and it was first launched in 2016, and it's currently the most used publication venue by Wellcome-funded researchers. The platform is supported by us at F1000Research for publishing and technology services, and it uses that same model of immediate publication followed by transparent invited peer review and underlying data that I described earlier for F1000Research. Wellcome Open Research also publishes registered reports. In addition to open peer review and open data, these reports benefit from peer review and publication at all stages. And there's an example of a complete registered report shown on the right, in which you have a published peer-reviewed study protocol linked to a published peer-reviewed research article. It's important to note that registered reports are suitable for both replication and novel studies, meta-analyses, as well as secondary data use. And registered reports, at least on F1000Research and Wellcome Open Research, do allow for exploratory analyses. And I really feel need to say it louder for the people in the back, that registered reports can allow for exploratory analyses. In my experience with researchers and publishers, the #1 concern around registered reports that gets raised over and over again is that they'll really constrain science, by requiring this registration. And I'd like to emphasize that, registered reports, they aren't limited to pre-registered analyses. And the registered report we're looking at here is a great example of a registered report which includes unregistered exploratory analyses. And I realize my talk probably has a strong theme of transparency, but again, it really is key here. As shown on the left, Wellcome Open Research allows for that post-hoc exploratory analyses, so long as there is clear separation within the article between these exploratory analyses and those of the confirmatory hypothesis testing. And this is a snippet of the article demonstrating that. And on the right, you see that we also ask peer reviewers to assess this. So that final question they're asking about unregistered post-hoc analyses and whether they are methodologically sound and informative. And so in this way, I'd just like to emphasize that registered reports don't really hinder exploratory testing. They actually create some space for it. And if any of that has perked your ears up, whether it's the open peer review, the data sharing, or the registered reports themselves, but you're not sure where to begin, rest assured that you're really not alone. While there's been widespread adoption of registered reports by journals, the uptake by authors has been a bit slower. Of the 225 oddish journals offering registered reports in 2019, only about a quarter had actually published a registered report. So to try and help, spur on uptake at F1000Research, we've put together an in-depth guide for authors, which runs through what you need to cover in every section of your stage 1 study protocol before you submit it to F1000Research. And this really is a step-by-step guide. It'll walk you through, the basics, title and abstract, through to the hypotheses, your methods, and even your data availability statement. And at the end of this guide, there's a really handy checklist, you can use while you're writing, tick everything off, and it makes sure you don't miss any crucial information. So if this is something you're thinking about, I think using this guide is a really good exercise to help you prepare for your next research project. And with that, I'd like to close off my talk by using this opportunity to encourage you as researchers, maybe potential journal editors in the room, not only to embrace registered reports, but to get involved with initiatives, beyond this. I'm sure a lot will be discussed today that support better science and really help move us away from that toxic publish or perish paradigm. Thank you.